Hello and welcome to Perinatal and Pediatric Conversations. I'm Dr. Linda Slack and I'm the lead instructor for pediatrics.
I'm Dr. Jessica Taglerini and I'm the lead instructor for prenatal.
And I'm Dr. Ashley Emmel and I'm the lead instructor for pelvic dysfunction.
We formed the Perinatal and Pediatric Academy just recently, and reason being is that it's always been my dream to bring chiropractic education to doctors, more and more doctors, to have you be successful in practice. So when I started my journey, I became a pediatric specialist, and I teach pediatrics all over the world. And just within the last year, I was asked to teach at the Massachusetts Chiropractic Society convention. And we came and brainstormed this idea: what if we had different topics, not just talking about pediatrics? So the director of the MCS said to me, do you know anybody who could teach upon other topics relative to perinatal and pediatric care? And I knew that in the last year I had been speaking with Dr. Jessica and Dr. Ashley, and they both told me that they specialized in perinatal and pelvic floor, and they would love to join in and teach. That is how this academy was born. As far as pediatrics go, if wondering how in the world did I specialize in pediatrics, I became interested more and more in pediatrics through the experience that I had in life. I had a daughter who has a very unique brain. She had the formal diagnosis of dyslexia, maybe a specific learning disorder, didn't really want to classify her put her in any hole or give her a diagnosis. So those challenges, though, through school really intrigued me to learn more about the brain. So first I became certified in pediatrics through the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, and then went on to study neurodevelopmental disorders through the Carrick Institute. And that organically brought my practice into the attraction of bringing more and more children to see me. So one day, about 10 years ago, my husband said, why don't you see all the pediatric patients and I'll see all the adults? The beautiful thing of having husband and wife in practice, we were able to split the practice and do that. And now my focus is mostly on infants, and I see about 90% babies in the practice, about 10% children with neurodevelopmental disorders.
I started off in prenatal practice after experience I had as well. I've been practicing for 24 years, and about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago now, my older son was born. And at a very traumatic birth, we didn't know until we were in the delivery room that he was posterior. So he was head down but facing the wrong way. And so he got stuck in the birth canal. The average amount of time you would push would be about 30 to 45 minutes. I had to push for 6.5 hours. In addition to that, the doctor needed to use forceps and the vacuum to get him out. It was as traumatic as you get without ending up in a cesarean. In fact, I'm really surprised they didn't make me get a cesarean at that point. I had all intentions of having a natural labor. I hired a doula. I had a birth plan, best laid plans, but it didn't work out that way. And in fact, I honestly don't even remember the birth story, and I'm only able to reiterate it to you here today because my husband was in the room and he told me the story. I kind of blocked it out. It was that traumatic. I knew I wanted to have more children, and I didn't want to have to go through that again, nor did I feel any other mom should have to go through an experience like that, nor should their baby. It's traumatic for the baby as well. I think we can agree. So my husband found the Webster technique online, and we both went and got certified through the ICPA, and we both have been practicing that ever since, for about 20 years now. Doing this prenatal work is really amazing and fulfilling. We're able to help moms have the pregnancy they want, the birth experience they want, help these babies come into the world less traumatized and hopefully with a good experience. And it really brings me a lot of joy, and I'm very passionate about that. Over the years, I've learned all kinds of ways to build a prenatal practice, network with other providers in the community, from things down from my paperwork to the way I do my exams and my care plans, and I really developed all that and a really solid procedure that I want to share with everyone. And the interesting thing is it's kind of hard to have a prenatal practice without seeing children. So as I was seeing these moms, they were saying, "Can you check my toddler?" And then after the baby was born, I'd have them come in for their postnatal visit and they say, "Can you check my baby?" And so that kind of parlays into seeing infants and toddlers and other children and all the members of the family.
So I graduated from Cleveland Chiropractic School in 2011 and also did a pediatric journey through the ICPA and a CACCP. And I also had a very traumatic labor and delivery with my first, which was back in 2011. And so during my pregnancy, gained a lot of weight. And my OB-GYN, every time I would go in, would be like, "Ashley, you're gaining a lot of weight." And I kept saying, "Not really eating a lot. I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm very active. I'm just putting weight on," but there's really no rhyme or reason. I wasn't binge eating or anything like that. And I kept just saying throughout, like, "I'm getting pitting edema. All these things are happening." And so she was on it and was checking for preeclampsia, doing UAs, doing the dipstick, all the things she was supposed to do to check for protein, and nothing was showing up. And I was at lunch with a chiropractic friend and at 37 and 6. And I said, "I just don't really feel that great." And this was over my lunch break. I said, "I think that I should probably go to triage," because that's what my provider had said. If you get headaches, any vision disturbances, anything, go ahead and drive. Probably shouldn't have driven. It was 30 minutes away. And I thought, I'm just going to go check into triage. I'm going to be let go and I'll be home. So I called my husband at the time, like, "Hey, this is happening. I'll see you in a little bit." Well, I got there and my blood pressure was very, very, very high. And so I was admitted right away, was not in active labor. And so they induced me, which was not ideal. And so day one, I had a round of Cervitec and they said, "Okay, we'll see how things go. Hopefully you'll be in active labor tonight." Nothing happened. That next morning, round 2 of Cervitec, nothing happened. So then they did a cervical balloon. So if you don't know what that is, they put this balloon into you, pumping it in your cervix, trying to get it to expand to dilate you. Nothing happened. It's extremely painful when you don't have an epidural. And so nothing happened. And then they decided, "Girl, go ahead and break your water." So they broke my water, still on day 2. Going into day 3, nothing's happening. So I got Pitocin. Nothing happened with Pitocin, so they doubled it. Nothing happened. And so at day 3, the resident was so sweet, came in and sat on my bed and said, "I think maybe we'll do a C-section." And I said, "We will not be doing a C-section. I'm in day 3. I'm having a vaginal birth." So being the chiropractor, I wanted the vaginal birth. I wanted those microbes for my daughter. I wanted to make sure her lungs were developed and had like that compression to reduce the risk of asthma and all the things we know. And so he said, "If you can get to at least a 9 of dilation, we'll let you start pushing." So that was a few hours later. So at midnight, a little before midnight, about 11, I started pushing and I pushed for over 3.5 hours. At this point, I'd been awake for almost 4 days. Very little rest and all the extreme things were done to me. And I pushed for over 3.5 hours and was exhausted. And she got stuck in my pelvic area and I had to have vacuum assistance. Because of all the measures that were taken, I had an extreme postpartum hemorrhage, which was scary enough that pretty much every personnel on the floor was in our room doing extreme measures. And the intern resident at the time said, "We're going to be doing a hysterectomy right here, right now." Thankfully, the resident at the time said, "I think that we can do a balloon to stop this," which they did. But I was hospitalized for an additional 3 days and was on mag drip this whole time and had 3 blood transfusions. And so my pelvic floor was trashed. And the only person that really talked to me about it was my IBCLC friend, Rosemary, and said, "You have to protect your pelvic floor. You're the only one that can protect your pelvic floor. Please don't do Ashley mode and do all these extreme things." And so I did extreme things. And I learned getting pregnant with my second child that my pelvic floor was trashed and that I needed to go to the extreme measures to fix it. So I became certified in pelvic floor and have been working with women prenatal, during pregnancy, postnatal, postpartum, or some that haven't even conceived that just have pelvic floor issues, because as we know, pelvic floor issues are with all people, men and female. And that's what started my journey.
Please follow us on Facebook at Perinatal and Pediatric Academy.
Hosted by Ellis Bennis at Floating Axe Technologies.
Our next podcast coming up in a few weeks is going to be regarding care planning and making proper decision making to make a proper care plan for a pediatric patient.